Well, tonight, as the rubric said, we realize we live in a world where the supply chain of food is very fragile. As it says, one calamity in one area can lead to total instability in another area. We saw that in COVID, how one issue at hand involved many other issues that were seemingly unrelated. And that's the world that we live in. We live in a world where the food supply is centralized. And so most of us are just used to going and picking up food from the supermarket shelves and to home. And if we were to take stock right now and say, hey, how long could I survive were the food supply to be weaponized to a certain end, we would really be in for a shocker. Maybe not all, but a lot of us. So I want to read you a quote. This one came from Last Day Events as we talk about the food supply being weaponized to a certain end. And to the end is that we will break God's law. Men will want to break God's law. Reading to you here from Last Day Events, page 149, paragraph 1. We're told by the servant of the Lord, Satan says, and these are open and closed quotation, for fear of wanting food and clothing, they will join with the world in transgressing God's law. The earth will be wholly under my dominion. And I'm so happy that the Lord revealed this to his servant to tell us that for want of food and clothing, Satan's plan to hard press God's people or those who really have uh, an intention to do right, that they would give up the fight just because of want of food or clothing. So tonight we'll be talking about some preparing and storing food for the coming crisis. We know there will be a little time of trouble where many of God's people want to serve him according to the dictates of their own consciences will be disenfranchised. They will be hard pressed on every side, but God has given us enough time so that we can get ready. As we read in Revelation 13:16, this beast from the earth, he causeth all, and the cause there is really forceth all, both rich and both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. This is his plan, to use many means as the world become more globalized and centralized, that just one stroke, those who don't go along with it will find themselves hard pressed. And I want to close off before I hand over to our guest invited speaker tonight. It says here, God's plan for Israel. In God's plan for Israel, every family had a home on the land with sufficient ground for tilling. Thus were provided both the means and the incentive for a useful, industrious, and self-supporting life. And no devising of men has ever improved upon that plan. And to the world's departure from it is owing to a large degree the poverty and wretchedness that exists today. What we see here, yes, what we see here is that remember to keep your um, audios muted as you come in. What we see here is a picture of a world where there is some sort of sufficiency, where there is collective sufficiency among the people. The world we live in today is a world of centralization. Centralization of power, centralization of money, centralization of means. And so it is God's plan that this is never so, but that together as individuals in a community situation that we're able to help one another and provide for ourselves. So as we talk about this subject tonight, we will also bear this in mind, that we all want to go closer to God's ideal for us. Our invited speaker tonight is a very wonderful man of God. Every time my wife and I we have chance to speak with him, the time passes too quickly. All right, wonderful gentleman. He's very humble. Doesn't like us saying much about him, except that he's a servant of the Lord. And I just want to, his name is Brother Dwayne Davis. And I want to invite you to come on, Brother Davis, and just lead on out in the rest of the talk and just lead us through. If you have comments, you may use the raise hand icon or you can say them in the chat. All right. And as soon as we see them and there's a space, we may take the comments. All right. So, Brother Davis, I want to hand over to you now.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I hope we are all doing well. And despite of the challenges, we are here. Now, this evening, our meeting, our presentation, it really came out of a talk that both Kenny Hill and I were having at church. And we were sharing some stuff. And they said to me, you should share this, And I smiled, only to see nearly 1 year now. 1 year I am here doing this presentation and the same topic that we were talking about. Now, this evening, first of all, let me say this. I am no expert on the topic we're going to talk about, but I do believe that when the Lord speaks to you, you need to listen. And let me give you the backstory before we go into everything. We were searching for a property. You want to go to country living, do the whole country living. We prayed about it, fasted, prayed. Finally, the Lord provided something. However, moving there, and immediately we started. It's not a big farming land or anything, just a little garden. But immediately starting to plant stuff, we realized that nothing was coming. And the next best thing I could do was to go back to the Lord and say, Lord, you brought us here. What is it you want me to do? Because you see I'm trying. You see I'm trying to do the country living, but it's not working for me. And let me tell you something, brethren. Immediately after praying, I was watching a video. And let me tell you, everything on that video came up about how to store food. How to store food. And I was like, God, you are good. God, you are good. And with that, one video led to another, and all the things that I practice now is from those videos. So let me get straight into this evening's presentation. So I'm sharing my screen now. Hope everybody is seeing it.
I am.
Right, good. So this evening, the topic says food storage for the coming crisis. Now, I do believe we are already in that crisis. I really do believe we're already in that crisis. And many times as President Truth and we talk about food storage and survival, let me first say this. It doesn't matter how many food you store, God is the one who saves, not the food you store. So we are not doing this to be saved, right? But I do believe that the Bible teaches a principle of the duty of the congregation. And sometimes I would hear a person say, for example, when you go to Matthew 6, 25 to 34, the Lord says you mustn't worry about tomorrow. The Lord says you mustn't take no thought for tomorrow, which is true. But that also is in a context. Because when you study the themes of the Bible, when Noah was preaching, he was storing. He was storing stuff. And there's a funny story in the Bible, Genesis 43:11. And that story was about Jacob. Jacob when the famine was on the land. And when I read that story, there's something that he said before he sent his sons back to Egypt for food. He said they should take some gifts, and he named out some of those gifts. Some of those gifts were things that they could actually eat, but prior to that, he said they were what? They would die of hunger if they did not go back. So, and he named out nuts and almonds and things that they could eat. So I do believe there is a principle in the Bible for where we should store for time of crisis. Now, we do know that when the major crisis come, even what we have stored, we will have to leave it. I hope everyone here believes that. So we are storing technically not for the coming of Jesus, but for the little time of trouble. Because there is a time coming when we have to run left even what we store. Now this evening, we know that in Sister White's writings, she emphasizes a lot on canning. And canning is a means of storing food for food storage. Now, canning is a food preservation method, a method that processes and seals food containers using heat, providing a shelf life of 1 to 5 years. 1 to 5 years. Now, looking at that, I've always heard persons said, we need to plant. But reading the book Counsel and Diets and reading these quotations, I said to myself, how many persons are planning on storing? Because you can plant, when they come, what do? You're going to eat some, let it spoil. And if you look at how Sister White dealt with things, when she have excess, she would normally can it. Now, it's best to eat things in season, but it's also good. That's when it's out of season, you can go to it. Hence, I started looking at how to preserve food. Now, the process of canning, as it says, it deals with heat. And for those who know how to can, you would need what we call a stock pot or a canning pot. Now, that pot have to be deep enough. And she did recommend that we use glass jars or Dexter jars. And there's a third jar that she mentioned. But in this day and age, we can easily find mason jars. Because can is not safe for us to use. And if you look at my screen, you can see those mason jars in different sizes. And the mason jars are multi-purpose. You can do canning with it, you can just store food in it, you can use them for so many food storage purposes. And we're going to get into some of those this evening. Now, when we look at the canning procedure, though, in doing my research, I realized that canning, for me, is not the best means for storage. Because one, you have to use a lot of heat, like boiling water, so forth. Two, your nutrient content, you lose a lot during canning. As a matter of fact, you lose about 60 to 80% of your nutrient value during canning. So that one, when I looked at it, that one wasn't going to work out for me. But you can do it. You can try it because there are many methods of storage. Now, this evening, you can choose which one is best for you based on region or availability of funds, whatever it is. You can choose which one is best for you. So canning, as she pushed canning, other methods were not available to her at the time. So especially for those who, when you're canning, many times, especially when you're canning fruits, you use a lot of sugar. Use a lot of sugar to make a syrup. So that one wouldn't be suitable for me. Right? So when you look at these mason jars, One of the beauty with these is that they come with self-sealing lids. And your biggest enemy for storing food, whether it's in the freezer, whether it's dehydrating, which we're going to get to, whether it's canning, it's oxygen and moisture. Moisture, particularly for dehydrating, but oxygen spoil your food. And in canning, you have to make sure that your containers are well sterilized before you put anything in them, because they will attract mold. They will spoil. They will spoil. And these lids, they do have a silicone at the bottom to seal them. And then those rings at the top is just to secure them. And the thing, when you scan with these, you will know when it's right, when the center of these lids, you have a dent in it. It's not up, it's down. Because it's all about locking in the pressure when you use canning process. And the same process for dehydrating as well. Now, dehydrating is a food preservation method that removes water. That removes water from the food to inhibit the growth of bacteria, yeast, and molds. Now, the first video I saw, dehydration. That lady, she said why she started using mason jars was because she used to dehydrate and put the stuff in bags that could be vacuum sealed, which we're gonna get to. But then she had a problem with with the little critters who would cut her bags, whether the rat, the squirrel, whatever those little critters are. That's why she moved to mason jars. Now, dehydration is one of those process, one of the better process, because in dehydration, you will lose about 3 to 5% nutrient in whatever you dehydrate. But there's some certain foods, you dehydrate them, the method or the process to getting them to dehydrate is different. For example, in dehydrating, for example, bananas, American apples, Irish potato, these things you would need to add just a mixture of lemon water or lime water. So 1-to-1 ratio, lemon juice, lime juice with water, and spray those that they don't go brown, because these food react with stainless steel or air. Now with Irish potato, it's good to, when it's as soon as you slice it, you put them in water, preferably cold water, to keep them the color. Right? Now, other foods like nuts and so forth, you would soak them first. And one of your best friend in learning all these methods, is YouTube. Because trust me, I spent hours watching a lot of videos on how to, until I was able to get a dehydrator, get some mason jars. And mason jars, right now we know that there's a thing against with the plastics where it's leaching into your food. So mason jars, this is one of the better things to store in. Now, if we know how dehydration works, dehydration technically is a little stove, it's a little oven that works with low heat and a fan. You can dehydrate with these little machine that's on the screen, or these one to my right. All they do, little heat, a fan to remove moisture. Now, after you dehydrate, storing is your next process. Now, dehydrated foods, very versatile. Very versatile. For example, you can make powders, you can make fruit rolls, You can do your own seasoning. And one of the beauty about dehydration is that it increases its concentration in flavor. I did some sweet peppers and scallions. And let me tell you, when you dehydrate those and powder them and use them in your cooking, it's tastes different, just better, nicer. Now, God made these foods with their proper water content. We are removing the water for a storage purpose, but in that process, we get a higher flavor content in these foods. Now, if you just dehydrate and leave them out in the oven, you're gonna have a problem. They're gonna get soggy. Some will get hard. Some it will spoil. So airtight containers, best place to store these, especially when you can remove the air from these containers, which we're gonna get to further on. So in terms of dehydrating versus canning, I go with dehydrating every time for me. Now there's a process. Now vacuum sealing, vacuum sealing process of removing air from packages before sealing it, which creates an airtight environment. Now these mason jars that you can use, you can get a vacuum sealer. Now, I preferred this brand after all the researches because this does both bags, bags and mason jar. This one, the Food Saver brand, it can let you create your own bags and seal them. Or you can buy the bags like Ziploc bags, but it comes with a feature for you to remove the air from it. And doing that, you get longer shelf life. For example, normally when I have corns, I would vacuum seal those bags, put them in the freezer, because freezers do damage food. It's called freezer burn. But when you remove the air, you increase the shelf life for that. So you move from, say, 3 months to 1 to 5 years. With the mason jars and the vacuum sealer, it's interesting that when you buy this machine, this little part here is the part that you would use for the bags, but you can detach the top from the bottom to use for your cans, for your mason jars. However, you would need an additional part to put over the jar to seal it, to remove the air. For those who do cold press juices, you know that when you do your juices, the air is what destroys the nutrient content. Now, doing cold press juices, you can vacuum seal those juices, and instead of a 10-minute window, you have a 3-day window because you have removed the air so it won't go brown and lose its nutrient as quickly. And this machine does this. Let me tell you, I spent a lot of years of acquiring many of these things. And we're gonna get to what we're gonna do when the crisis come with these machines. But right now, when you look at my picture on the right, you see some vacuum sealed vegetables. Now, these vegetables stored in the freezer, you can store this for 1 to 5 years, as I said. Now you can store your peas and your nuts and grains in these bags as well, for them to not just to last long, but also to deal with any insect that is in it. So when you use a mason jar to store like peas, for example, I would buy, say, lentil from the supermarket. When you buy it from the supermarket in those little bags that they retail out, many times you go home and if you don't use that soon, you will see a lot of little dust in it. What I normally do, put the peas in mason jar, vacuum seal it, and within a couple minutes, every insect would die. And you just sieve that and reseal it. And with dry peas, you can get even up to 20 years of storage. I did some almonds and I flavored them. And 2 years, I said, let me try and see if these almonds, how they taste. And let me tell you, the biggest mistake I made was to open one. Because once you open one, you just go through. And many times persons try to store stuff, but for whatever reason, they have to go into what they store. Both my wife and I, we decided that, okay, if we normally buy 1 pack lentil, we're gonna buy 2. One is for what we normally use, and one is to put down until we move from the pack to the pounds. And getting mason jars, sometimes you would just walk into some stores and you would see them. I bought my first set online, and it was in the time of COVID, when everywhere you check online, you couldn't get mason jars. Mason jars run short. And one of the funny things I learned or I recognized is that the world is doing this storage thing even better than many of us who know what is coming. Because there are persons out there who are buying stuff in bulk just to store. Just to store. So the vacuum sealing process, you can get the manual pump too. You can buy a manual pump. I don't have a picture of that here, but you can get a manual pump. So if you don't have electricity, you can use your pump, and you can use that also for the cans. Many times persons would buy the sealer, the sealers, the electronic sealers, and those are the ones that you see that they use for the banana chips and so forth when they're selling them. But that only seal the package. So it have a shorter shelf life. But when you remove the oxygen, you have a longer shelf life. And during this discourse, if there's any question, you can feel free to ask. But when the Chinese have a saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So it's not too late for you to start, because there is a crisis coming. There is a crisis coming, especially for those who are in Jamaica and in the US, because we see where the other day there was a shutdown and many persons didn't get their pay. And I am sure if they had something in storage, then they could have relied on that. I see a hand. Brother Wallen. Not hearing you, Brother Wallen.
Doing
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing
yeah,
you.
in addition to what you're saying, you see,
Mm-hmm.
what we do also is to date the packages that you do,
Right, right.
so you
And
know what to use first.
right,
Yeah.
right. You date it, and I have a little technique that I use because I don't have a lot. I would, whatever new I use, whatever new I acquire, I put it to the back. I put it to the back. And many of us do that even in Jamaica when we're storing mangoes in the freezer. Would put the mangoes, we would date the mangoes, put them in bags and store them in the freezer. You know? And dating is good because you will know what first to use. And it's this process tourism is not only for food, because normally for me, I buy things in bulk. Love to buy things in bulk. Even tissue, I love to buy it by the case or 2 cases. And each time one case, if I buy a next case, I put the last case I buy at the bottom. At the bottom. So I'm always taking from the top. I've bought some what's the name? Wheat. Wheat. I bought the 25-pound containers of wheat. And those containers are in buckets, which we're gonna get to, and mylar bags. But each one I buy, I put that one to the back and move the last one up. Move the last one up. Because as Brother Wayne rightfully said, dating is important. But many times I don't date. I just move them. Move them. Good point. Good point.
Dwayne, in addition, I remember you said that one lady had like something eating the bags, the mylar bags.
Yes. It
What they could do,
wasn't the mylar bags though, it was the vacuum seal bags she was using.
Okay. Because what we do, we put the mylar bags in buckets after we vacuum
Right.
seal. You put it in
Right.
bucket. Yeah.
Right. So even with these processes, because the process you don't want to store and then lose, whether to critters or to whatever. So the best for you to do is put it in things that the little critters have problem getting to. Now, anybody here ever heard about flash freezing?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. And I honestly believe the reason for that is because of the flash freeze. Many of the things you buy in the store, for example, your frozen fruits, they have been flash frozen. However, the equipment to do that is mainly made on an industrial level. There are some persons who are doing some small household ones. I don't know how effective those are. But when you look at these 3 methods so far, flash freezing and freeze drying, those 2 have the highest nutrient content for your food and the longest shelf life. So with this method though, you're looking at 10 to 30 years of storage. And I really believe that is the reason why they have made it so expensive for you to acquire these machines particularly. For when I was, researching, I realized that you can get a dehydrator for $50 based on quality. I see Howard Schooler. Go ahead, Howard.
Night, Jens, how are you doing?
Good night, sir.
Yeah, the question that was in my mind really on the comment is that even as your store, you said that you keep on moving the thing to the front. That means that you were consuming them at a time. You weren't storing them forever.
No, not consuming. Just the last one. So if each time I buy, I will put that to the back. So that's my way of knowing. So okay, this is to the back. This is the last one.
So those that you were storing, then you were putting to the back. So you're saying that when you buy and you're storing, you don't use from that. I
try my best not to.
And that was one of the things that I was questioning, because one of the things is that if you don't use, then you, even with the best method, you still have this thing of spoilage if the things stay too long.
Right.
But I was wondering if you could have a capacity that when then you reach that capacity, what you start to do is to remove and replace with fresh stored goods.
True.
You understand what I'm saying?
True. So I totally understand.
Having stagnation, you have this rotation where you're using the things that you have stored and replacing them with fresher goods that you're collecting.
So, and that is why, Howard, the methods give you different time. So, you have a 5-year shelf life on something, right? Now, I have bought those wheat that I have bought. those 25-pound wheats, I have not pulled one yet. Now that is a 30-year shelf life.
The
I
wheat.
don't, huh?
The wheat. You know, when no, hold on. I'm trying to figure out. All right. So the thing is, can you clarify for me? When you say you're storing wheat, what are you talking about? You're talking about like cracked wheat, like the bulgur, or are you
No, I
talking
mean,
about
no,
wheat flour?
wheat, no, not the flour, but the wheat grain.
That is like the bulgur grain.
It's more, these three wheats come in hard white, soft white, and hard red.
Okay, I don't know.
So the hard white is the one that the hard white and the hard red, these are the ones you would use to do your breads.
Oh.
Your soft white is the one that you would use to do your pastry.
Oh. So these are not refined though.
No man, I'm talking the wheat, the wheat, the wheat grain. So in doing my storage and storing stuff, I have also bought things now to use them. So I've made sure to get one of those mill.
So you mill your own flour?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess maybe that is where we have the gap in knowledge, because when you say wheat,
okay,
I don't know what it looks like apart from the bulgur.
Okay.
I don't know what is soft wheat, white wheat, I did red wheat.
Okay.
And I guess maybe
So-
other persons are wondering what you're talking about.
You're right. So thanks for that. Thanks for that. Now here it is. The hard and the white really depends on the hard red and the hard white really depends on even the soft white depending on the region because of the gluten content, and that's where I get it distinct white, hard or soft from. All right. So the more gluten content, the better for breads. One other thing I've heard persons say, Howard, is this: wheat is bad. Wheat is bad. Wheat is bad. But what I've learned is not that wheat is bad. Whole wheat, that is, not the one you buy in the store, not the whole wheat flour. But when you have the wheat in its complete form, it's different from when you have it in its separate form. For example, when you buy the wheat flour, it doesn't have all the things in it. When you buy not the bulgur, so you would have wheat, you have wheat germ, you have what they do is separate the wheat and sell individual parts. You have gluten flour. Now, when you separate those different sections, that's when your body have a problem in absorbing it because you're getting too much of one part.
Yeah,
but when
I understand what you're saying in terms of the breakdown, the wheat germ, the endosperm,
right,
and the what we call the brand.
right,
The brand.
the brand.
That is a different portion of the wheat. But there was another problem that was mentioned, and I think Barbara O'Neill is the one that brought that to the front, that the wheat itself was hibernized. And when they did that, it concentrated I think it is the gluten, made it more complex, and the body started having problem in breaking it down. And that's where melt flour became was brought to the fore, where she was saying that this is the wheat before the hybridization process.
True.
And this is the one that our body is more likely to be able to break down and will not damage our bodies in any form. So we have two problems. Is one, you're talking about the processing process that do deneutralize the thing and take out all of the fiber and the nutrients for the flour. And then you have a wheat that has been hybridized to a point where it is harmful to the human body. And we need to get the one that is, what did I call it? The unhybridized wheat or the smelt flour. I think that is how it's pronounced.
Well, you have two main original grain there, sir, and that's it's pronounced, I think it's einkorn or something like that.
Yeah.
Spelled. But here the thing though, Howard. Almost everything we eat right now, you see, I believe almost everything, is designed to kill us. It's by the mercy of God that we are here. So
basically what you're saying, I understand, that is one of the things that I found is that God never leave his people without a witness. Anything that the enemy come up with, God will go find a way if you make it leak out and make we find out say that is not what God did plan. And then we can go back, we can try and go back to the original. It's not that you're going to escape everything.
True.
And that is why we also have to pray and ask God for mercy.
Thank you.
What we eat will not kill us, you understand, before the time. So we understand, we understand, and basically this kind of frank discussion on it is really important, because basically we don't want to scare people to the point where they can't eat anything.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And that is one of the problems that we have, because sometimes people talk about some things that they discovered to a point where people don't know what to eat after that, and they
that's true. That's true.
So basically, we have to just trust God that if you can't find the best, eat in the second, you just have to pray and ask God for bless what you can eat as long as it is within the parameters, in certain parameters. If I can't find the good wheat, I can get some flour for cook.
Right.
Let me try and best to enhance that as best as possible.
Because at this, sorry, Howard, I'm going to cut it, but because right now at this point in the crisis, is it? What we're actually in, is not leisure mode, but survival mode.
Yeah, man, I do understand, because basically what is also the thing that our tastes in terms of food, because the thing is that there was a point in time that we didn't know about whole wheat flour, we didn't know about whole grain oats, and yet still we were still living.
Yeah,
so that means there was enough on the land to live on without touching these things. So basically what we need to do now is to detangle ourselves or disattach ourselves from certain things. Wheat flour is good, but we have cassava and we have some other roots where we have to the possibilities that we have to go turn back to them thing there. We have breadfruit and all of these things. Sometimes a stone dog and nobody now look upon them because we are so focused on that, the wheat and the thing. These things are what we need to eat. But the
here it is. That is the beauty of the process of dehydration and even freeze drying. Because you have mentioned the cassava and so forth. All these cassava flours and yam flours, all I did was dehydrate them. All I did was dehydrate them. And one of the things I've always said is that, yes, we are in a crisis, but I really believe the crisis is made based on our choices. For example, we just had an hurricane. And prior to the hurricane, leading up to the hurricane coming with all the announcement, the supermarket shelves were empty, but the food were in the market spoiling. Now, after the storm, everybody is crying, so the food are going short, but nobody bought it before. So we are in a dilemma.
No, but again, I want to agree with you. Because if you look at it, even with Jacob's cases, you mentioned that what he had in the land was enough.
Yes.
And what we have in our land, if you look around us sometimes, is enough,
Oh, yes.
But because we'll pass it, people want to pass it and go buy Kentucky. They want to go pass it and Burger King. We pass it and go buy bread. And I'm a part of it. We know that we have been brainwashed to think a certain way because of consumerism. So we need to start to understand, say, it's not say no food now go dead.
Right. It's a choice. It's a choice.
And where we think that we can't live without. And we need to disattach ourselves from that kind of thinking. As you said, not that we're not in that place where we can say, okay, this is what and what I'm going to eat. But we have to go find out what and what we can eat that is available. There is a young lady, she came out, she's a doctor. And one of the things that she said to me that I found fascinating, she said, Bridget, I don't have so much free food. And she said, free food? And I said, I wonder what this woman talk about. And she said, yes, and I have so much things that can eat around. That's what I can get free. at that time, I didn't know that you can eat aloe vera.
Oh, yes.
Think
Yeah,
about it.
and it's not bitter.
And yeah, basically, and it make a very good toothpaste as well.
Oh, yes.
And you can eat some to the tuna. But I too like it. But if you come to the test and basically, say that you can cook it. You can use, I've heard, brethren, may I learn just like everybody else.
Right.
But I've learned that basically most of the tree, then when you eat the fruit, the leaves
The
also
leaves
are.
can be eaten too.
Yeah. And
No,
some of the things where you're
sorry.
seeing at the bush are things where you can't eat.
Let me give you a perfect example of that, Howard. Now, my wife loves to plant flowers, right? And I would always say, make sure, say, when time of trouble come, you can eat the flowers. I don't really water flowers or anything. Then I learned that Joseph coat, the flower Joseph coat, the leaf can be eaten like callaloo.
You're serious?
Yes. And you know who started water Joseph coat? So as we go along, we learn. It
Yeah,
was
and
last year I learned that beetroot leaves, it tastes so nice, like callaloo. Pumpkin leaf, cook like callaloo. So there is enough, but we don't see those stuff.
we don't know them, elder. It was called old people thing. We never take any time. It's one of our biggest curse in this island. We never learn enough from the generation that has passed.
True.
When we heard about like the fact that jackfruit could be, we know about jackfruit seed. For years we have been cooking jackfruit seed. We cook it and put some salt on it, and we eat it as a young person. But when I grew old, I started cooking it, chopping it up, and
Right.
cooking it with with gluten and pressure cooking it, becomes soft and nice in texture, and eating that. So it was lovely. You understand? But I never did know that you can cook the young jackfruit.
Yes.
And then basically what has started happening now is that so much person start experimenting with it. And then you hear about one we went to a health what we call a pop-up show, and there was somebody there cooking and selling French fry soursop.
I've seen that. I've seen that on a video. Seen that on a video. I haven't tried
So
it yet.
yeah,
I
but when
saw
I
man.
say we have to go. What we need is not as we store, and we
Mhm.
can't store. Is also we have to start because one of the thing is one of the thing, if you know that the thing can't eat, wonderful. What is the next thing to eat it?
Next thing to eat it.
Prepare it and make it
Right.
palatable. That
Right.
now is where we are going to be lacking, because we're used to the refined things, we're used to the wheat and this, and we're used to the beans and all of that. But if we move out of the comfort zone to try these things, it's a place that we are going to have to go and experiment. And
Right.
this is where we need to go at this point.
But if when I look at what Sister White says, when the things are in abundance, in one of her writings, she said, should I make it go to waste? No. When they're in abundance, she would can everything. That's when it's out of season, because as I said before, it's best to eat things in season. As a matter of fact, Howard, what I saw during this hurricane or this disaster that just passed, is the destruction of our fruit trees, the destruction of our fruit trees food system. So when you plant, for example, I have planted some trees from the day I moved to that house, which is 5 years now. I haven't eaten from it. I thought I would have ate from the apple tree last year. Hurricane Beryl gave it a fight. This year, fight. Now, even I have been storing seeds to plant. And the reason for that is when things are in, when I'm waiting on stuff, I need to, while I can take some peas and something and cook it, I am waiting on those vegetables to come. When it come, what do I do with them? Because a lot of times in in crisis, and we saw a glimpse of that in COVID, I've heard many persons say, oh, we need to form a community. So if I have yam and you have this, we can share. But there's something I saw. Restriction of movement. And that was worldwide, not just Jamaica. Even though we were in the countryside and it was a little easier, but one thing they want to do is to restrict our movement. So if I'm waiting on something to grow, but I have something to deal with at the same, can eat at the same time, I eat that, wait on it to grow. When that come, I store. Some things I store for a week, some things for longer periods. Now, one of the things though is I have moved, first thing I've done was learn how to do almost everything manually, right? So even baking the bread, I did it manually. But dealing with grain breads, trust me, it works the muscle, which is good. So I got something to, help me out with that. Yeah. So when we look at some of these things that we're gonna be using, and some person will say, "Oh, how you gonna power them?" I really believe there's a reason why solar systems, God let them put up that a lot now in terms of production, because you can get solar stoves, solar ovens, I should say. You can get solar dehydrators. And there is a text. Let me go to that text and there's a picture of the solar stove. Now, on the left, these solar stoves, they cook, but they don't burn. So they don't burn your food because there's no fire. They don't burn your bread. There's no fire. Now, I don't know. I'm going to ask though, because I am taking this serious in terms of I made sure I went out and buy a coal stove and coal, and I have wood. So when the gas goes, can't buy and sell, what do I do? How do I prepare these things?
There is an alternative doing even with the gas. There was a friend of mine. I actually got it, but I didn't put it in production. Where he used the refuge from the kitchen, the peels and all of that.
Right.
He grind them up, put them in a container, and then use the gas from
that. Yes, I've seen that.
And so there is an alternative to it. Is just to get the equipment to do it.
And that is it, because
to understand it as well. Understand it.
Yeah. Because for me, I love to have a backup for the backup. Because I'm thinking there are times when you think way ahead of what your pocket can manage. So I really believe I don't have one, but I want, for example, even an electric stove, because if I'm thinking of going solar, I want one with the gas, with the coal.
One with the electric. Yeah.
So I want the coal. I want the gas. So on the rainy days, so yeah. I'm thinking of all the possibilities. I love the backup for the backup.
Okay. The thing is this, that, God has given us the ability to use our brain. And I think maybe that is something that we have to go to. The fact of the matter is this one. If a time is going to come that we are not going to be able to get the gas. So that means that we will have to learn how to catch fire. And I learned that. We went down to camping in the bush. It was raining, right? And the firewood was wet. But I learned through the Holy Spirit, because I never learned camping from anybody. That basically you can split the wood in two. And inside the wood is dry. And from that, now you catch your fire. And then you put in the wet wood in the fire, and the heat will dry it, and then it will catch fire. So all that we learn on spot, that is on camping, right? So we can learn how to do the camping. We should learn how to also burn the coal. We must also, but at the meantime, while we still can use the gas, we use the gas. You know why I'm saying that? because person believe that basically we must create the time of trouble beforehand in terms of stop using all of these things because there is going to come a time when no, we don't that. We enjoy the things and while we have them. So if you have a blender, go and blend. And they are going to come when, but learn how to grate the thing by hand as well. And learn how to do the other thing. As you said, learn how to do the manual thing, but enjoy the help where you can get it. Yes, you can use the exercise for the strength and muscle. But when you
and a very good stress reliever too.
Yeah, but when you have the thing, you make sure that it's there. Because maybe your wife no want to have the strength and muscle idea working on yet. You understand? So you must make sure that all the equipments that you can get, you get them.
Yes.
But also all the equipment that can be used without electricity, that we can use, we machine and all of that. We have to learn. So it's a re-education. From our taste bud to what we cook we use as food to all the equipments that we use is education. And that is what Sister White says. Educate.
And here it is though. One other thing with storage, you see, is you also, in everything, practice or observe what you use for a period of time. So many times in times of ease, for example, I never used to, when I'm doing, say, rice, I never used to measure it with a measuring cup. But now I'm practicing how to measure it to see how long this lasts, to know how much to use. You used to bake regularly using your oven, your gas oven. You know, so your gas are going to finish quick. You minimize it. And in that way, you can learn how to use in portions. So back to with the solar thing, because this text caught my eye, as you can see on the screen, Malachi 4:2. Malachi 4:2 says, "But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and he shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall." Now, what caught my eye about this text is the name, is the Son. We know this text is referring to Jesus. But here this Son is spelled S-U-N. And it dawned on me, is that with where solar is going, because solar is, I believe, expensive for a reason. Because solar remove dependency on the system a whole lot. One buy, and that's it. One buy, set up, and that's it. Compared to gas, you have to keep going back to them. And when I saw that Son spelled S-U-N of righteousness, I'm like, is God really telling us to plug in to the sun, as in the sun in the sky? For he made it for us. And that is when I started really looking also into the solar aspect of things. Now I'm going to wrap up soon. Soon. Now we have root cellar storage, but many persons don't practice that in Jamaica. Funny enough, many houses are built with cellars in Jamaica, but we don't practice root cellar storage. But here is a thing that I bucked up on. And that is called gamma seals. Because many persons will store in buckets, but their food still go bad. Now, when I discovered gamma seals, it's just a little fancy lid you would put on your regular bucket. There are some buckets, for example, some that Bashko sell that are very thin. Very thin. These won't work on it. But a regular paint bucket or a regular 5-gallon, 3-gallon, or 7-gallon bucket, these would work. These create an airtight seal. So what I did, I got some, bought the buckets, store rice in them, even storing the rice. Each layer, you would put bay leaf or pimento, So if 30 pounds can hold in one bucket, for every 10 pound, you put bay leaf or pimento or clove on the top, and you keep out the little critters. And this has been working for me very well.
Sorry, Elder.
Yes, sir.
What it?
Wait, hold on. I want to encourage us to continue to use the raised hand icon, okay?
Yes, his hands is raised.
Yes, when you use the raised hand icon, the presenter can pace himself and know when to allow us to speak. All right, my hand has been raised for some time as well. Using
Oh, right. So go ahead, Sir Owen. Then
Yeah,
Elder Williams.
it's just that I was so interested in what you were saying that about the critters, because one of the things is that the insect issue is a big problem. Right. And when you can find things that they don't like, because you mentioned bay leaf, you mentioned clove and pimento. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they didn't like that. So
no, keep them away. Keep them away, brother.
Okay, but I didn't know that. So that is something very important. So
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
And the thing is, when you're because as we mentioned earlier, I'll comment to your brother Williams, but as we mentioned earlier, in storage, it's not just storage, but how the procedures. And I learned some of these the hard way. For example, we also mentioned that some things for example, white rice stores better than brown rice, longer shelf life. Now I have white rice stored for emergency purposes. And how you store, as I said, you do it layer by layer. You don't just throw everything in. So each layer, you put a layer of clove, or not clove, bay leaf. Then you add another, say 10 pound. Then you put another layer. Then you add. Then your top layer, you leave that, put on the gamma seals, and you're good for a good 10 years. Which I really don't believe we have much time here. Go ahead, Brother Williams. Brother Williamson. Can you?
Oh yes, you answered my question. I was about to ask white or brown rice. You see, you buy 100 pound of rice, you want to store it. What is the best way to put that away? But you answered my question that the white rice is better. And why is that though?
Why is that? Because they bleach it and there's no oil. There's no oil in it. So it have a longer shelf life than brown.
Okay. I don't know if you're gonna get to it, but you buy 100 pound of rice, what's the best way to store it? I think you touched on some cloves a while ago. You say you put cloves.
Right, but that's the way. There's two main ways. Or let me put it this way. Remember I said earlier on, the enemy for storage is what? Oxygen and what?
Water.
Moisture to be exact.
Okay.
So with these buckets, these are what I store it in for long-term storage. But I normally keep them in some larger jars, not mason jars now, but they are airtight. They're airtight. So, or you can vacuum seal your bags. So when you put it in bags and you remove, I don't know how many of you have ever seen those packets that we get in the church with the what you call it? The rice and the mince and so forth. Those are vacuum sealed, and those increase your shelf life long because you have removed the air. And one of the good things to get to, is we call them oxygen absorbers. And those are some little things. Normally we buy shoes or we buy a handbag for the ladies, or certain things you buy, you see some little packets in it with some little gel things, hard gels. Those are actually oxygen absorbers, but you do have the food grade version of it. So those oxygen absorbers, even if you put the vegetables in a bucket, it's good to just throw some in the bucket with those vegetables to keep out the moisture as well. So we can do that. All right. And these lids, As I said, all they do is just give you an airtight seal. So you transform your regular bucket to an airtight bucket. So nothing gets in, anything in it is what was in it before. And if it's airtight, they're gonna die. And these covers are universal in terms of it's only the Chinese bucket they don't work with, the thin ones, the very thin ones. But they normally tell you on the site that they're buying it for 3 gallon, 5 gallon, and 7 gallon. And you can buy them. The color doesn't mean anything more than it look pretty. Because I mainly buy the white. Mainly buy the white. So let me ask, are there any more questions?
It's just a comment.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main reasons for the processing of foods, is making the white rice. Because if you think about it, if you process rice, it must take more money to process the rice than just taking it as brown rice, which no need a lot of processing.
Right.
What you find is that by removing the coating from the rice, what they do is remove the nutritional value.
Nutritional value.
The insect know what makes sense, and they will not pass with that. The same thing with white flour.
Right.
Because by taking out the wheat germ and the endosperm and taking off the bran, then the food become deneutralized. I wonder if that is a correct word. It's not as nutritious, and therefore insect would not fool around it.
I'm going to tell you, Brother Howard.
It make no sense.
What I'm Brother Howard?
Huh?
Insects do take up white rice and flour.
But it's not as prevalent, because, well, I guess it's still having a little protein in it. But in terms of the time,
right?
When you have whole wheat flour and whole grain rice, these attract insects at a much quicker rate, and microorganisms at a much quicker rate than the one that has been processed.
True. True.
And so the shelf life is just cut.
And the oils too, the natural oils that are in it, they remove that. So that is what makes the thing go rancid.
Yes, it's true.
Makes the thing go rancid. So in a survival mode, you would have that as your backup. Because when you look at, for example, even the wheat in its grain state, stored have a good shelf life. However, when you grind that wheat is only good for 3 days.
Wow. Wow, you said that is the life.
When you grind it and use it. It's the same procedure with flaxseed. Flaxseed, you should not grind flaxseed and have it in the grounded state for a long period. You should grind it when you need it and the amount you need. You use that, leave the other one stored properly, lasts longer. But grinding it, you do lose nutritional value if you let it stay out, and it can go rancid. So whenever time, I use a general principle. If it stays on the shelf for a long time, I see Claudine. Coming to you, Claudine. If you see, for example, wheat flour on the shelf in the supermarket stays a very long time. So I believe something is wrong with that, because the natural one don't last 3 days, and it can, unless you put it in freezer. Go ahead, Claudine.
Hi, good night, everyone.
Yes,
I hear you talking about flour and rice and all of that, but I am having some challenges as I try to store, say, bananas, yellow yams, and all those stuff. Put it in the freezer. I find that after I try to use it, it probably gets black. So I'd like to know what's the best way to store, like, yellow yam, sweet potato, green bananas, such.
Right.
And if I put banana in the fridge after a while, it still gets ripe. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, the green banana.
Well, one of the things
Or it gets black or something. But what's the best way to store items like those?
When those get black, that is what I was talking about with freezer burn. No, even in the freezer, you can use what the vacuum sealer bags. The vacuum sealer bags, if you have a vacuum sealer, you can buy the manual pump to remove the air out of it because it's actually oxygen spoiling your produce. Even though they're in the freezer. So when you remove the oxygen, they retain their color. It's the same process in terms of a little bit different, but for example, pear. When you cut pear, if you leave it out or put it in the fridge, guess what? You get black, right?
Yeah, true.
Did you know if you cut an onion and put it beside it, it takes a longer time to get black?
No.
Right. Because the onion absorbs whatever makes it black.
Okay.
However, we should, as I mentioned that though, when we should not cut onion and use part and leave part. When you cut an onion, use everything because onion is an absorber. It attracts every bacteria and so to itself. So it's not good to cut onion and leave piece. It's good to cut it and use it. So
Okay.
I do hope that helps you, Noreen. Get the freezer bags, get one of the pumps with a manual or the vacuum sealing machine, take out the air, it should last a longer time. And each time you take out, you can reseal.
Okay.
Or you can dehydrate them too and grind them into flour.
Yeah, that's another option. I think I'll try.
Trust me, it tastes better than what you can buy in the supermarket.
What I find is that when you make the flour, it doesn't hold. I don't know, maybe because of the gluten content.
So one other thing is when you dehydrate, okay, what dehydrating does is remove the water content. But if you leave it out, it's gonna get moisture from the air and it's gonna go rancid. So if you do the flowers, it's best to store them in mason jars, vacuum seal that, and that will help with a longer storage life. For grinding the wheat, unused wheat, you can store that in the freezer. Even when you make bread from stone-grown grains, you can actually store those bread in the freezer if you're not gonna eat everything one time. And it easily thaws and it tastes like new.
Thanks, yeah.
You're welcome. I see your hand, Petula. Petula. All right, until she comes on.
Please, can I add or
Sure.
question? All right. So in regards to rice, right? I don't know if you had mentioned it. But how many oxygen packs do you need, or per oxygen absorbers
Absorbers.
per bucket of rice?
You can use about like based on the bucket like a 2 or 3 in each bucket.
Okay.
Because if you have the gamma seal on, you have already reduced that oxygen thing already. So that is just to keep none from coming in. Which if when you buy like for example the what you call it now, the powdered protein shakes or that's the seed ones or the natural ones. Most times you would find or any powdered, for example, when they powder fruits like berries and so forth, in those containers you would find some little things in it, like you just think it's a little plastic thing. Those are actually oxygen absorbers. So it keep it from, instead of adding anti-caking agent, it would keep it from caking up.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi,
Oh,
hi,
yes.
gentlemen.
Go ahead, Petula.
So for the rice, Sharice, so I like to portion my rice for storage based on what I would use for my family size.
Mm-hmm.
So say I purchased like a 100-pound bag. I would get like the five, is it gallon? 5 gallon
5 gallon
bucket.
buckets.
And I also get the 5 gallon mylar bags.
Mylar bags, right?
I push that mylar bag in the bucket, fill it up, and put that aside. But I also get smaller mylar bags
Mm-hmm.
and make smaller portions to
Mm-hmm.
keep. And
Right.
for the white rice, I those store very long. So I also do portion size. But for the wheat flour and the brown rice, you don't have long shelf life with those.
Right.
You can keep them in a cooler place. Um, I'm fortunate I have a garage that feels like a fridge. So I keep stuff there and
Right.
it keeps them cool. Like for the wheat, I purchased the organic wheat from
Right.
a friend, and she grinds it for me. But I have to keep it in the garage in a bucket
Yes.
because it
Yes.
keeps it really fresh and nice.
Yes. And once
Um,
you, sorry, go ahead.
for those who don't have this vacuum, what's it
Sealer,
called?
vacuum sealer.
The sealer, what I use when I cut off my beetroot leaves and I wash and chop them up nicely, I put them in a Ziploc bag and I fill one of my sink with water and I immerse the Ziploc bag under until
Mm-hmm.
almost to the tip of the opening,
Right.
and it sucks the entire oxygen in that bag, and then I quickly seal, and
Amen.
it's like using a vacuum sealer.
Amen. I did not know that method, but that's why we're here to learn.
Yes.
That's why we're here to learn.
For the ground provisions, as you say, we need to get back to the old days where we use up the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a cellar or a family member, you can actually build one
Yes, you can. You
and
can. Because what
and
you're
store.
controlling with the cellar is the same humidity.
Yes, that's
Same
right.
humidity. So
So
it's not a moldy cellar, but a cellar that air passes through, no sunlight, but you keep
mhm,
the air flowing.
yes. And you can store your potatoes and your pumpkin there, like
Yes, your ground provisions, yes.
yes,
Because funny enough, the Amish, they mainly use root cellars
yes, they
to
do.
store their stuff. And it
There is no
store well.
yes. We are in Canada here, and we have what is called a cold room.
Right,
No, we have a vent from the outside that
right.
runs inside that room, and one that so you have one that goes out and one that comes in.
Comes
So
in, right,
and it regulates the air. We have a thermometer there to make sure the temperature is normally set at a pace. If it gets too cold and it goes up in the -42, we have to close those vents
right,
to just make sure the stuff down there don't get frozen.
right.
And we have potatoes, we have carrots, beetroot, pumpkins, like
Yes,
from
yes.
season right back till we're ready to plant in the springtime. So yeah, that's a good way.
Yes, and one of the things to know is that, as she mentioned, the cold room. Some persons in those climates they use the what they call it, the space heaters when it's very cold to
Yes.
regulate the temperatures, and that helps. What I did a lot. I started watching a lot of the homesteading videos. Not everything they do I agree with, as in most of these guys, they don't eat what I eat in terms of they are meat eaters. I am not. But you do get good tips how to plant, how to store, when to reap, even though they're doing it based off their area or their region. For in Jamaica, cold room, only a fridge room, we're gonna call a cold room. We don't have the minus temperatures. And that is why food storage is not one size fit all. It's about
That's true.
your region. You have to know your climate and what works for you.
Yes.
What works for you. And there are many. The funny thing, if you look it up, some will say there are 10 methods, some will say there are 12, but in reality, is what works for you.
And I just want to close off before I go, Brother Dwayne. With the coal stove, let us not discard of them.
No. I went to buy back one, sister.
And I'm sure it's on hand. I remember I went to UTech a few years ago, and I did baking technology, and this industrial oven just went blank. Nothing we did, it will work. And we had a expo, and everybody's coming in, and we need the stuff to display, and everybody's getting crazy and panicking. And I said, sir, why don't you get some coal stove and put the Dutchy pot on the stove and put the products in there and bake it? And it's like, who would have thought of that? And we did, and we got breads and all our pastries baked, and it was an amazing time, and I look back on that today and I'm like, wow, we're really going back to the old days,
Yes. Because with all these methods, what the most important thing is we'll have to go back to what is called primitive godliness. Primitive godliness. Now, even on this channel, I've seen person displaying baking breads. I mean, steaming breads. Steaming. Instead of baking it, they steam the breads. So, as I said, it's not one size fit all. You know what works for you. And funny enough, a lot of things that were not designed for us, God in His wisdom, let it help us. For example, YouTube, instead of watching a movie, watch a video on how to improve on something, how to improve on storing, how to make your own foods from what you have stored, how to rehydrate them when you need to use them. One thing I learned the hard way is not in dehydration. When it comes to peppers, onion, and garlics, do those outside. Do those outside. So you can get your onion powder, your garlic powder from dehydration. And when you're going to grind them, wear a mask, a good mask. Because even when you're finished, even when you're outside, that's going to burn your eyes and it tends to linger. I didn't hear that.
I've been out with your backyard. I can't try to remember if we charge. After me, I buy them members, me pay a good while. We take out the things them out of the washroom. Yeah?
Please mute your mic. Right. So all these methods, I do hope that they have helped in some way to get you prepared for the crisis ahead. And remember, it is not the food storage that will save. Only Jesus will save. Because there are some, I have always looked at it this way. No matter the disaster, there are persons who survive. And many persons believe that it's what they do that make them survive, but it's actually God that keeps us. So with all these methods and ways of storing food, let us put Jesus first, for He's the one and the only one that can save. And I do hope that this evening we would have learned something from this presentation. Now I will turn back over to Brother Williamson. Are there any more questions?
One more.
Yes, I have a question. Like rule of thumb, it's very basic. Like what to dehydrate versus what to can. So, you know, I already mentioned peppers and like things with water content. What do I do with those versus like things like grains? So what do I know? How do I know what to can and what to
Good
dehydrate?
question. Good question. And one of the thing is almost everything can be dehydrated. Whether it have a high water content or a low water content. For example, you can dehydrate melons. You can dehydrate melons. When it comes to like your nuts, it's best to soak them before you dehydrate them. And when you dehydrate them, it is funny, it's not cooked, it's not roasted, it's still is raw content. All you have removed is the moisture. But soaking the nuts, it releases just like when you soak your peas. What's that chemical? It prevents regrowth and remove that I'm trying to remember the chemical that's in it. The same reason why you soak your peas. So if you're gonna dehydrate nuts, you would first soak them, then dehydrate them. But almost anything can be dehydrated. Anything. Any food. In terms of canning though, canning is mainly limited to fruits in terms of what we eat. It's mainly limited to fruits. So you would hear when you read Counsels on Diets, and she would have her peaches and she would have her oranges, whatever, pineapples, and she would can these. She would can these and share it with the kids or the children around her. So mainly for canning, I would say fruits, but you can go online and get a guide, 2 guides. Not just what to dehydrate, but how long to dehydrate particular item depending on the cuts that you have. If they are the thinner they are, the less time for dehydration. The thicker they are, the longer time. And as I said before, some items might require another step. Ripe banana, the American apple, what else? You would need the lemon juice to prevent it from getting brown. Sweet potatoes, with sweet potatoes, what most persons do is to blanch them first. So you don't cook it, get it tender, you blanch it. Then you dehydrate it, and you can have that as a snack. You can have that as a snack, or you can cook it. Same thing you would do with carrots. You can just dehydrate the carrots, store them. When you're ready, you put them in your soups, or you rehydrate them and use them whenever time you're ready. But one of the things I've practiced is when I learn something that I think is good for me, I normally tend to try it. If it doesn't, I have a 3-try rule. So I'll try it one time. If it doesn't work, I'll go back and see what did I do wrong. Try it again. If it doesn't work, try another time. If it doesn't work a third time, that method probably is not for me. Any other question?
Hi, good evening.
Yes, sir.
So we had some mylar bags, the large ones.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some beans in them. We got the
Mm-hmm.
oxygen absorbers.
Mm-hmm.
But funny enough, few of the beans few of the bags with the beans, sealed bags, the beans them actually spoil. What do you think would have caused that?
But while you have the oxygen absorbers, you did not, I am thinking you did not remove the excess oxygen.
No, I just fill up the bag.
Right. And that is why when it comes to vacuum, for example, let me see if I can explain it this way. When we go to the supermarket and we see some of these packaging like with our banana chips or our cheese tricks or whatever it is, actually most times those things don't spoil, not just because of the process or it don't go stale, but because oxygen has been removed. And a lot of stuff where you see an expiry date on it, that expiry date for things that are well sealed is actually for you to come back and buy because it have a longer shelf life than what they had on it. So for example, tin foods. Tin food have a longer shelf life that's what on the tin. However, two things. When they put a date on it, it's to remove reliability. So if anything happens there after, they say, no, they're not responsible. And for you to come back and buy more before. So you throw them and say, oh, them expire. And when you go to the supermarket and buying stuff, when you see things on deal, in packs like threes and check the expiration date. Most time it's because it's near the expiration date, they're putting them on deals. Petula, your hand still raised, right?
Yes,
Yes.
so for food items that are, if they're not close to the expiry date, most time what happen is that they would have purchased an excess amount and they're following the FIFO method. So it's first in, first out. So
Right.
if an excess amount is still in stock, they
Right.
will put them on sale so that the order that is to come in, it does not overwhelm the warehouse. So
Right.
it's not always that the expiry date is near.
Right.
It's just sometimes there's too much of a certain item.
That's true.
Back
That's
to
true.
the canning, Kenil asked a question, what do you know what? Honestly, anything can be canned. Like
Okay.
literally, I see people, we go to the farmer's market here and you can get boiled eggs, you can get chicken, beef, you name it, it's in a
Right.
can.
Right. That's true.
So
For this
what
purpose, I was sticking to the vegetables though,
okay.
not the meats.
So for your produce from the garden, anything from the garden can be canned. If you raise animals or you produce, you were mentioning something earlier. I had my hand up, but I didn't get selected for the freeze dryer.
Right.
So for the freeze dryer, it would be great if you have one or can manage to have the usage of one. For trust me, it is expensive. It is pretty pricey on the
I know
pricey side.
I was looking at the prices today. Right.
Still saving to get one, but my neighbor have one, and trust me, it's amazing.
No, man, it is. It is.
We freeze dry just about everything here.
Yes, yes. That and the beauty. Sorry, let me just butt in. The difference with the freeze drying and the dehydrating. One remove the moisture content, while one locks in the moisture content, but freeze it in a way where it doesn't create any solid crystals.
Yes, that's for the freeze dryer.
That's for the freeze drying. Which the same thing with the flash freeze. And what that does, it retains its brightness, color, and nutrient. Because most of these guys, Green Giant, those peas thing that you get in the store, it's flash freezing or freeze drying for the powdered ones or for the fruits. And as I said, anything can be freeze dry. And it has a brighter color. And it as a matter of fact, that method is the one that retains the most nutrient content. It's you lose only 1 to 3, while dehydrating you lose 3 to 5, and then canning you lose 60 to 80.
Tonight that somebody in the group, come on, think about getting a freeze dryer. You won't run out of business. I told to a family member 2 years ago. I went home and I said, "Listen, I have a business idea." I put it to them, and she's like, "No, that not gonna work here." I'm like, "Listen, a freeze dryer, the amount of mangoes,
No, that's
plums,
true.
and
That's
all
true.
these things that goes crazy on the rat that feeds the pigs and all these things,
That's true.
you can freeze dry them."
That's true.
And So
As I said earlier, you know, and as I said, the problem is with the price because you can get a cheap dehydrator for $50. I was looking at the freeze dryer yesterday, and those are running anywhere 5,000 up. And with the ones that I was looking at, not just today, but even before, because I was looking if the prices, you know, if more persons were buying them, the prices would go down. But not so, not so, not so. So,
And go do it.
did I hear brother Wallen?
Which one of the brand for the freeze dry? Because if there are different brands with different prices. Some of them
Yes,
appear.
I saw. All right, the one. Let me see if I can go back to a particular slide. Let me see if I can go back to a particular slide.
First right one.
Because there's one that I saw. That one looks like a dehydrator, but it's actually a small freeze dryer. But I was looking at it and I'm wondering, 'cause I know sometimes these guys label.
A dehydrator, that one.
Eh?
The only just show dehydrator.
Oh, I'm going back there. I'm seeing. Did I pass the freeze drying one already?
No.
Ah, no, that's yes. So the one that you saw that you said dehydrator, it looks just like this, does it?
Mm.
And I was really wondering because the real freeze drying machine, they are not the average. It's like a small, what do you call it now? Office fridge.
Yes, and it comes with a pump on it.
And it comes with a pump and a liquid.
Right.
Right. Because it uses another step. And I guess that's why it's very expensive.
And I think there's a difference in its taste. So the dehydration has a more kind of rubbery taste. The freeze dry have a more kind of crispy.
Yes, the freeze dry can give you a crispier taste because you have removed no crystal was formed. So you
Right.
maintain the texture.
Yes.
And if you do like, for example, the berries, the strawberries and those blackberries and blueberries and so, when you freeze dry them, they are very crunchy and nice. Compared to as what you said, dehydration. Dehydration give you crispy, and if depending on what, or leathery.
Yes, kind of
You
leather.
can make a leather roll.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why it's called a leather roll. It's very rubbery.
Yes, that's true. Very rubbery. Yeah,
But when you do like for example peppers and scallions and seasonings and dry them. When you dry them and grind them, trust me, the flavor in those are different. Probably it would be on the same par with a freeze dryer.
Yeah.
Same par because again you remove the water content, so you enhance the flavor content. And normally when I do those don't last long. I don't really do.
No, it's amazing when I purchase onion powder and garlic powder, and I stop buying them in the supermarkets because when I see my neighbor freeze dry her garlics from the garden and the onion,
Yes.
and she grind them and make this powder and give me a sample.
Trust me, different. So there's a difference. And with onion though, with onion and garlic powder, one of the best places to store those is in your freezer in a glass container. That prevents it from clumping up or caking up. So your little seasoning bottle, get the glass one, put it in the freezer. That funny enough, that prevent the moisture from getting in to cause the clumping. Okay. Any more question?
Yeah, you had said 5,000 what? Was that US?
Yes, sir. So, yes, sir. Today when I check, those are the prices I was seeing for them. So that's why I said with any other process, it's based on your area, your pocket, what you can afford. Because yes, the freeze drying is the first time I was introduced to it, it's beautiful, man. When I saw the prices, I said I will go go with what works for me.
I mean, but with some of the sunshine and light and heat what we have in Jamaica, I think a solar dehydrator would be good.
Would be good. And that's why that text that I quoted, plug into the sun. Plug into the sun. It's free. The setup is not free for certain things. The setup is not free, and all they are planning on blocking out the sun, I will say let them try. Let them try. Let them try. So I will now turn over to Brother Kenil.
Hello, I'm sorry to butt in. My hand has been up.
Oh, Sister Noreen?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing her.
Wow.
I'm hearing her.
Not getting through. Hello?
Yes, Sister Noreen, I'm hearing her.
She's not hearing you.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, good. Thanks. Good night.
Yes, good night.
I'm so sorry I came on late, but a question, I don't know if you covered this before. A question I wanted to ask, is this preservation of food with reference to like another, well, not another, I'm thinking of Melissa, but a natural disaster, or is for the time of trouble when Jesus soon come back? Or both?
Well.
I don't know if you covered that before. And
no,
also
well, I did. And this is what I did say. The preservation or the storage of food is not until Jesus come, but until we have to leave it.
Oh, so okay. So in other words, a time will come when like they're not going to be available. So because we have them at home, we can kind of work with it before the mark of the beast starts.
Right.
Is that it?
Right.
Okay.
So because when you look at, is it Isaiah 33:16? Isaiah
Bread shall be given him.
And your water sure. Now,
right.
This time, at this time, we will have to totally depend on God because we would have run everything.
Okay.
We would have to totally depend on God.
Yes.
On God.
Definitely. And another question too, you may have covered it. I don't know if the poor people method of preservation was discussed before these these very expensive methods. Is this program recorded? When Brother Kenil was announcing it on the platform that I got it from, he said it's available on YouTube as well, because I'd love to go over the first.
Yes, it was recorded.
Oh, I do hope you mentioned, first of all, 'cause I'm so overwhelmed with these expensive methods that I'm hearing of I just feel so lost. So what would I do? What could I do? Because I wouldn't be able to afford those stuff that you folks were talking about. And if there's a simpler method, I heard you mention the sun. You mean like just get a piece of zinc and put stuff out in the open and dry them? Is that what you mean?
Yes and no. Some things you need to prepare before you put in the sun. Some things it's better you prepare before. For example, what do you remember some of our old-time methods that we used to cure, say, for example, meat? Because in curing meat is mainly salt we use. Salt. We're not dealing with meat, but harvest in the sun. Harvest in the sun. When we, for example, I was saying we could get, let me see if I can find it, solar dehydrators. And Sister Noreen said something, Sister Noreen said, these expensive method. Let me tell you, Sister Noreen, I 100% agree with you, but I also believe that this was my conviction. When I prayed, I said you had missed the first part, and I asked God to show me. I also asked him to provide them. He has not given me everything yet, but he has given them one by one by one. And let me put it on the record, I am not rich, but I do have a father that is rich in houses and land. And when I prayed and he gave me that answer to the prayer, I did ask him, I said, Lord, you need to provide these. Because you know I don't have it as well. So he will provide, Sister Noreen. He will provide. Sister Esberry, Gray.
Yes, good evening, Earl here.
Yes, good evening, Sir Earl.
Yes, all right. When I was a boy and growing up, and I saw my father keep yam, grown provision. When them from yellow yam to rent yam, any one of the yam, when them dig it, him put it in his sun for maybe a day or so, and then him put ashes on it. Where he part record,
Right.
and it stay up to 1 year, nothing wrong, and put it down, said place in the kitchen or wherever he put it, and it stay up to 1 year, grow, and it just stay there. You cut it when you want to yam, you cut it, and you peel it and you hashes it back, and it stay there forever, up to 1 year. So that is a way we can.
That is a way, but I don't think these yams are gonna stay for 1 year anymore in a Earl. Because
the fertilizer.
Trust me, as you cut them, them start go black. You know,
No, the yam, it didn't peel it,
No, I'm saying even if you cut off a piece of the yam to use in this time, as you cut it, Earl. So I am thinking probably that method would give way. Probably not a year in this day and age, in regards to the fertilizers using, but a longer shelf life.
Yeah, maybe a 3 months or so.
Yes, because trust me, sir, these foods now, you're peeling them and they might get black before you finish peeling them. You cut a piece, and before you put on the next piece, it get black, spoiled, dry.
Yes.
And when you have there's a difference, and that is why we were admonished to move to the country, not for hiding now, but to plant your food and you know what you're eating. Because this is what I learned Sunday. Every seed is organic. How you grow it makes a difference. While they are modified, there's a difference between modified seed. But when we say organic seeds, every seed is organic. How you grow that seed makes the difference if it's non-organic or organic. So there's a difference between organic and modified. And we really are in a trap with the modified seed. It's hard to get heirloom seeds. Very hard.
Well, beans also. We also, even the beans, we also have beans up to 2 years when I was growing up.
Yes.
And gungo peas.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and we have it there for years and top of years.
And even though those still can stay for a long time, you just need to keep them away from the little insects.
Yes, and we have the sorrel said we dry the sorrel and we have it there for 2 years straight. Nothing wrong with it. And stuff like that. So we can certain things we still can store.
Oh, yes.
We go through the proper channel and get the right
thing. Oh, yes. And funny enough, they're as I said, in time of crisis, many times in storage, you store what to survive on, because most times if you look at even the army, when they give them these dehydrated foods, it's not the best food, but it's something to get you through. Something to get you through. And we have the technology now where we can even retain our nutrient. Retain our nutrient. So I hope we have learned something. Hope we have learned something tonight. Brother Kenny,